not buy much of anything here today.
And why the millennial generation is starting to give up because they can't afford to get a good job or own a house.
8 million Venezuelans voting for this assembly, saying it's actually less than 3.
It is. And people are going to start rioting in the streets.
Was reported to have asked Putin for military support that would help him stay in power.
We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
And they ignore him. And 8 more years goes by till Bernie himself finally admits to his sons, hey, I've been running a Ponzi scheme.
Does its dominance mean it can use the alliance for its own ends?
Since 1981, bond yields, also known as coupon rates, have just gone down and down and down.
The Federal Reserve note will be your biggest financial liability.
RTD Live Talk. We're live. It's Wednesday night, or Tuesday night, I'm sorry. And today is the 11th day of September 2018. And I thought what better way to dedicate an evening other than to talk about how these two numbers, 9 and 11, has impacted the lives of pretty much everyone. I believe if you are a U.S. citizen, younger or definitely older, then you've been impacted by the tragedy that happened 17 years ago. And so want to find out exactly how has life changed for you, what might be some different perspectives you might have now in comparison to when you were younger. And so looking forward to finding out some thoughts this evening. And so give it a second, let more people chime on before I begin talking. But Crypto B, how you doing, my friend? Good evening. And so wanted to share a story with you as well as share with you my outlook on things over the last 17 years, and which has kind of led to how, I've arrived here in the alternative media space, looking to find and to uncover the alternative side of the story, or another side of the story than that we're told or not told. And so looking forward to find out what's happening here. So give it a second, let more people log on, and go from there. But other than that, what else we have going on? So definitely interested in finding out your thoughts on the news article or video I did earlier in reference to, not only in this country here are we honoring and remembering those lost, and just the recovery from that time frame as far as the New York area, as well as the Pentagon and whatnot. And so also outside of this country, we have a lot of developments in the Eastern Hemisphere dealing with Russia and China and some of the things that they're doing currently now with their Eastern Economic Forum. And so want to find out what is everyone's thoughts and ideas on this situation here. So give it a couple more minutes to let more people log on, and we'll try to have a nice little back and forth tonight if that is possible. So other than that, Crypto B, Crypto AB, how you doing, my friend? What's going on? What's going on tonight? What's your thoughts on the crypto sector? It looks like everything is, last time I checked, was in the red. And that's definitely never a good thing, depending on how you look at it, but it could be. And so as more people log in, chime in, let me know where you're watching from. And, as I mentioned, wanted to find out your thoughts and how 9/11 has impacted your life. And I'll actually start off with, sharing mine, because we, don't have too many viewers as of now, but I'll just share how it's impacted my life, as I hinted off earlier, at the fact that 17 years later, I would have never imagined that I would be heavily involved in the crypto space, as well as alternative media space, as well as looking for alternatives, because of what we were led to believe in reference to what happened on that day in 2001. And so definitely everybody remembers where they were located at when that happened. And Patrick, how you doing, my friend? Crypto in New York, how you guys doing? So yeah, that's one of the things that's really impacted my life, is the fact that here I am now 17 years later, looking for the other side of the story. You know, don't trust I don't trust any mainstream source. I don't trust anything that comes from our what do I want to say? I want to change the word up a little bit. I don't care to hear about or really follow much of anything that comes from our elected officials. That's what I'm looking for. And so I take everything with a grain of salt, and I find and rather myself look into finding the other side of the story before I come to any conclusions. And so that is all due to the fact that, you know, I firmly believe that everything we were told or not told is a deliberate act. And so that's definitely been something that 9/11 has impacted in my life, because it caused me to question everything. And that stems from actually this morning, I was taking my children to school, and on one of the radio stations, the announcer was, you know, had like a moment of silence or whatever, just remembering this event and going through the history, the time frame of it. And of course, my children have no clue what that is other than what they're told, and what everything is, you know, in the textbooks, whatever has been positioned in front of them as being a terrorist attack and things of that nature. And so I imagine if you're in an alternative space and you also know that there's another side of that story as well. And so the young lady who was the, you know, radio personality, she was going through the timelines of the planes and events. She was calling off all this information. And then and once the towers, the Pentagon, you know, 4 planes, 19 terrorists, you know, Al Qaeda, all that, you know, that stuff we were told at the time. And that was it. And then they went on to the commercial. I'm thinking like, okay, there was more to that story that, you know, most people don't really know about. And so, and talking about that, I'm like, you know, what happened about Building 7? Building 7 also came down around that same time frame, and it had nothing to do with the planes or nothing like that. And so, of course, you know, my son was like, you know, what is Building 7? So I'm like, you know, just YouTube, look it up. And so I believe that, you know, him being exposed to the idea of something that he wouldn't have heard anywhere else, you know, put a little different take in his mind, to where he was able to, you know, probably come across, you know, the idea that perhaps that there is always more to a story that you're told. And so I think that's definitely a good educational piece, you know, for my children, as well as for those that may not be tuned in as well. I'll encourage you to Google it or YouTube it. It's out there everywhere. And it's not one of them conspiracy things, because Building 7 actually came down and it wasn't attacked. So yeah. But what else we got going on? So anyway, from Missouri, how you doing, my friend? So we got a couple people viewing. I'm curious as to finding out how 9/11 has impacted anyone here. Anybody feel like sharing that information in the chat or via calling in? Let me know how 9/11 has impacted you. And of course, I mean, it's impacted everyone in some capacity, whether it be a direct family member or something of that nature that was, you know, involved directly in perhaps a life loss, or a learning lesson that came from that, as what I just shared myself. It says, Dilo says, I didn't experience it, but the event ultimately led me to realize how wicked our government is. Yeah, so that's definitely, you know, that's definitely your truth there, my friend. You know, you didn't experience it directly, but yet from that, you were able to gather all the information or gather some additional information outside of the mainstream narrative, and you formulated opinion for yourself. So that's definitely good. Anybody else have any things that impacted them from that? I'm curious. Let me know in the chat. But other than that, you know, I don't want to harp on that too much. It doesn't seem like a topic that most people want to really hit on. So I can move on from that, no problem. But for those that had a chance to actually watch the video I did earlier, that one was in reference to what's happening right now out in Russia. And so, you know, if you guys have followed the channel before, you know that I follow a lot of information in reference to developments out on the Eastern Hemisphere, because I believe that, as I mentioned in that video, not only is it National Preparedness Month for us as U.S. citizens, it looks like Russia and China are also preparing for something as well. And the way they're preparing is with guns and missiles and all types of war type of things. And that's never a good thing, because the only question would lead you to want to, you know, find out the answer to is, who are they planning on fighting against is the question. And so when you have Russia and China, and, you know, in my opinion, they are probably two of the, most dominant, military mights at the end of the day, because, just from hearing a variety of stories from people who experienced life over there, as well as people who cover technology that they've revealed over there, they are sitting on some really heavy artillery type of stuff that I don't think we're ready to experience. And so at the end of the day, it wouldn't be a fair fight, I don't think. And I'm not saying that we are all that strong as we used to be. So anyway, the goal is, who are they preparing for, and how big is this event that they are actually flexing for? Because they had 300,000 people ready in this war games, so they're getting ready to flex some muscle on somebody. And it says that World War III against the U.S., and that's that's just one thing I hope. I just hope and pray that we don't experience no World War III, because it will not be pretty at all. Because I think if both sides, if we are, not able to maintain our ground and our position as the world superpower type of thing, I could see some knuckleheads on our side actually saying, hey, let's just take this thing nuclear. And if that was to happen, ain't nobody gonna win. That will be all bad news. It says no country can invade the USA. And Kevin, I do agree, can't nobody invade us, but yet I think that our technology and being able to defend ourselves from airstrikes or whatever other weapons that have been created by those powers, I'm not sure. I'm not too confident that we have the infrastructure set up in the homeland to be able to withstand a bombardment from two nations, not just one, but two nations of that caliber. And so I don't foresee them putting troops on the ground here, because, the American population is heavily armed. Granted, most people probably don't know, they don't have tactical training, but it's good to say we probably going to let some bullets fly in their direction. But, it's no guarantee, the citizens will win against, some military combat type of individuals. But we talking off the story, off our marbles right there. But they're preparing for something, and that's something definitely we need to be aware of. So that's why I always keep my eye on what's happening over there, just because, it's always good to be aware of events as they unfold. Because like always, if you listen to your mainstream news, you're going to get the story after it already has unfolded. So after the missiles in the air or bullets already shot, and then there's bodies or casualties, then you get the news. Wouldn't it be good to get the news, or get the heads up before anything is launched, so that you can, brace for impact or whatever it is type of things? And so what we got here says, if we start bombing, it's all over. Yeah, if we start bombing, if we send anything their way, it will definitely. Here's the thing, we have military bases all over this planet, of which I'm, from stories and, news sources, I'm hearing that we've, over the last couple of years, called back a lot of troops and stuff like that. Trump's trying to bring some people home, whatever. So we've basically overextended our reach for decades now, and I think other nations have positioned themselves for this moment, whatever this moment is that we're talking about. And so that's why we have those two people, partnering up. And then it's good to say that everyone in their region, when they see stuff unfold, they're not going to continue to be our ally. So we might have more than just two nations against us. It might end up being the whole region, of which you include that all the terror that we've caused as far as invading countries, putting sanctions on them, and basically just utilizing our privilege of being a war reserve currency. We've abused that privilege for so long. I can imagine and foresee a time where countries like, the hell with that. We're not dealing with this no more. We're going to join this new world order that's being formed over in our Eastern Hemisphere, and we're going to go to war with those guys out in the West. And it's unfortunate that, we as citizens, if you're watching from the United States of America, we're lumped into that even though we don't agree with or, care for or have anything to do with the decisions that's really been made. It just so happened we happen to be in this land right now, which for the time being is is definitely the most prosperous and blessed nation for us to live in at this current moment. Yes, let me get to some questions. It says, can the U.S. get invaded? It says the U.S. can get invaded like any other country. U.S. is not untouchable. I do agree, that here's the thing. To my knowledge, I don't recall. I'm not a history war buff type of thing, but I don't think we've ever had any foreign boots on our ground in an attacked form. So, not saying it's impossible, but yet, you know, I just can't really see that going down too well for that invading nation. So I can see it being more of an air, you know, an air type of event than an actual on the ground. So that's just my thoughts. You know, feel free to share yours. It says they radiated the northern hemisphere already. They raided the northern hemisphere already. Now, when you say raided northern hemisphere, is that the fact that Russia, you know, instead of going around, they own so they can come over through Canada, through all that and on down, or what are you talking about? Because I've seen, you know, diagrams where I've seen projected missile launches, and they just shooting them boys right over the top of the earth. They're not going around. They can send them from that. They can send them from the Alaska area. They can send them over the top. And hell, I believe they're sitting on some technology they can send them from the east too. Because and if you just Google Russian technology, you're gonna hear about all types of, like their I think it's their S-600, which is their missile defense system, which their allies, they're selling those missiles defense systems to their allies, and of course those missile defense systems I heard they can shoot down 80 something. The calculations I heard was like, wow, like that's some high top-notch type stuff. And so of course India is an ally of us for the most part, apart from us starting to put them on our watch list for terror, for what is it called, their currency manipulator or something like that. So I read that we put India on our watch list of nations to keep an eye on because they're manipulating their currency. So what I was gonna say, so India, I guess, is supposed to be working out some deals with Russia to acquire the S-600s, and I read that our Department of Defense or the United States Treasury said that if India acquires those S-600s from Russia, we're going to slap sanctions on them. So I'm thinking, like, you know, what does that have to do with our national interests, other than the fact they're purchasing the S-600s to protect themselves from somebody, and they obviously don't think it will be Russia, and so the fact that Russia's going to sell it to them, and so just that back and forth, at the fact that we are on this side of the planet telling other nations what they can and can't buy. I don't think that's flying too well right now. Yeah, so I'm rambling a little bit. It says, U.S. will go down. I'm all about freedom. It says, they joined together. We are done for. Every empire has its day. It says, we are already invaded. Look around you. It says, half the guns in the world are in our country. Kevin, that's a good point, man. Half the guns are here, but think about who has the guns. It's apart from criminals and the underground, you know, underground, you know, hitmen and killers and stuff like that. Like, the law-abiding citizens have guns. Ain't too many of them like got much practice in being able to really defend themselves. They're trying to defend their homes, not necessarily go out and spot foreigners and, you know, protect your neighborhood type of thing. So we don't have any training, is what I'm saying. We do have more guns, I do believe, but yet no training. You can be you can have all the guns you want, but if you can't hit a target 20, 30 feet away from you, your guns will be somebody else's real fast. It says Johnny, the S-300, S-400s. So I know they have a different series line, so 300, 400, and I believe it might be 500 and 600, whichever the top notch is. That's the ones that we don't want them India to acquire. It says you can buy AR-15 for $500. You can train, part of being a man. Kevin, good point. But see, like right now, apart from like joining some type of training facility right now, it appears to be stuff is about to hit the fan pretty soon. So unless you got time to devote towards getting some training, you can get you a nice little AR-15, protect yourself. And it's been a while. It's been a while since I didn't shot anything, so I didn't get caught up. I'm a little rusty, I know. I'm a little rusty. So anyway, I missed a call. I had my phone, so whoever was trying to give me a call, feel free to call back. I'm still, as I mentioned, as the subject title of this video tonight is, want to find out how 9/11 has impacted your life. And so if you want to share how it's impacted your life, feel free to call in. I'm curious to find out. And as I was hinting at earlier, just to touch on that a little bit for everybody who might be joining us now, I was saying how after 9/11, and that's during a time frame where I was, one of my favorite movies of all time is The Matrix. And so in 1999 was the first Matrix, and then like the Revolution, whatever, came out in 2003. So that was a little 4-year window that 9/11 happened right in the middle of that. And that already had me thinking, like, when I saw that movie, it had me thinking, like, man, like, it really got me thinking, like, something's not right there. There has to be another story of this Matrix. I believe we in one. So I was already on some other stuff in 99. And I was much younger, of course, much younger. Basically a kid in the most part. And so from that point on, when 9/11 hit, it wasn't too hard to really get me to believe in alternative stories. So I'm thinking, like, once I heard about Building 7 going down, shortly thereafter, I'm like, hold on. And then I really started investigating for myself. And then that's when I was like, man, like, there's a lot of stuff going on here that I didn't learn about in school. And so then I started, really beginning to doing some more research on my own and whatnot. And then a couple years later, fast track to the whole economic situation of 08-09. That really got me going. That's what's really got me to question monetary policy as well as just currencies, because during that time I was, living in a variety of countries, and so I was dealing with, many currencies, and I'm thinking, like, watching events unfold, and then I really began rethinking the dollar. So that's how I was basically hitting at the fact that, 9/11 led me to where I'm at now, questioning everything that come across my eyes, and I like to just, find out the other side of the story before I actually go out here and say this, say that. And so that's, I guess the blessing behind having my eyes opened from this unfortunate event. And so, of course, I had someone that I knew that died in one of the buildings there. So definitely a tragic. So, but today is 9/11. I thought I would take some time just to go down memory lane and see how it's impacted everybody and see if there's any positive stories out of this matter. Because I believe, story I just shared is somewhat of a positive story because it opened my eyes to the other side of the story that I wasn't told prior to. It says, have you heard anything about Mexico and China becoming allies? Patrick, I have not. And so I know that China, and as I've watched all their activity, I follow pretty much every Chinese news source. Keep your friends close, your enemies closer, or something like that. And so I definitely, like, Xi Jinping is up to a lot of activity. Let me give you a rundown of what President Xi, Ethiopia. They have plants in Ethiopia. They're giving loans to a variety of countries. They're investing in infrastructure. They're building railroads. They're building housing. They're building, and like the pace at which the Chinese work is just unbelievable. Like I was watching a video the other day that's saying that I think as 150 Chinese workers built, they built something that was like, was it a rail line or something? They built something that blew my mind in like a week or 2 days. And I'm thinking, like, hell, it'll take us U.S. citizens 3 damn year, because people want to take lunch breaks and stuff like that. I mean, them people work hard for theirs, man. So anyway. So they had African Forum last week. And so, of course, a lot of African leaders was, present. And then so they've had, at least 3 or 4 forums where they invite countries and they all come up with their agreements. And it's good to say that when behind closed doors, all those agreements have nothing to do with the dollar, because why would China, basically invest in all these countries, build infrastructure, help the locals out, give them jobs and stuff like that, to then still be dependent upon the dollar when we are right now attacking them with these trade tariffs and whatnot. So it's good to say that the underlying deals that they're doing is basically saying that when everything happens behind the scenes and we no longer accept or require you to pay us back or whatever in dollars, we're going to have something for you to pay us with, and it's going to be our own currency. So every nation will eventually be tied into the yuan, because Chinese are investing in all these countries, and they're not doing it just for fun of it. They're doing it because they see future potential. And so that's something to keep in mind. And so someone hinted at Mexico and Chinese relations. And so just type it in, China and Mexico relations. look at what I came up with. It says, here we have something here, a video from last year. It says 3 reasons why it's time for Mexico to pivot to China. China and Mexico are strengthening commercial and diplomatic ties. So let's see what this is about. This was 2 years ago. It says Trump isn't even present yet, and China's already moving in on Mexico. And so here we have President Xi Jinping, the gentleman right here. He's sitting down with the president. I'm not sure if that's the current one. Mexico. And so they're sitting down, got the flags and whatnot. They got some paper in front of them. They're coming up with some type of agreements that will benefit both of them in some form of capacity. And so here it talks about Mexico's trade with China. It says exports is very low, but Mexico is importing $75 billion worth of goods. So that's a big trade deficit right there. They're receiving a lot more than they're sending out. But I'm sure Mexico isn't complaining because China, I'm sure, is acquiring some physical property there. And so everyone knows that Mexico is probably the #1 silver producer on the planet. So it wouldn't hurt the Chinese to actually have some property in Mexico. They can go mining when they need silver, because silver will be needed as a part of everything. Basically, every form of technology will have that in it. So it's good to say if Xi Jinping made a trip to Mexico, he left there with he shook some hands. He left there with some good deals. Because I'm starting to believe that Xi Jinping don't leave unless he gonna put China in a favorable position. And then, just to give you some more activity, a lot of people aren't aware of it. There was a Shanghai Cooperation Agreement 3-4 weeks ago that just came to mind. And so you have all the nations around border in China that's working on their agreement there. And that's all geared towards a one belt, one road. And so that they've been meeting for that. So there's buku alliances and forums and agreements that's underway, of which the U.S. is not a single one. So with that being the case, what does that tell you about how they view us and how they view future relations with us if we haven't been invited to not a single one of those meetings? They've been meeting in South Africa. They've been meeting in, as I mentioned, investing in Africa. They got they got the AIIB. They got the BRICS. They got their own. They got their own World Bank version. These people over here are preparing for something. So yeah. Anyway, just ranting on again. It says population reduction on the way. We added 6 billion in just 100 years, so it's pulled back on the people. Ah, man, that's some scary stuff there, because I've heard that a lot, and clearly everything that all these of course a lot of the corporations use countries in Africa as test subjects on all the Monsanto, all the pharmaceutical stuff that they test in this, basically making it to where men are no longer able to produce their lifespan or whatnot, seeds. You get what I'm saying. Got my tongue caught up there. It says China is going to make Africa the Chinese slave labor. And so at the end of the day, I don't think that, here's the thing, I don't think the Chinese will make the continent of Africa a slave style, the way that sounds like bare minimum, don't provide for them. Because you think about the state of the continent of Africa right now. It's all every country there is, for the most part, a third world nation, and even the more developed nations don't really have a fair system that provides for everyone, apart from those that already have resources and have access to capital and credit. So it's good to say, I don't know what the population of the continent is, but it's good to say that over 90%, give or take, of Africa, of the continent of Africa, it says, okay, so here's something that says it's 1.2 billion people, 1.29 billion people on the continent of Africa, of which 1 billion, in my estimation, is probably living off, as they say, living off $1 a day You know what I'm saying? That type of status. So if you have China willing to come in and invest in the people, and I'm talking about investing for their own benefit, of course. If they come in, build some infrastructure, they build houses, they build warehouses, they build railroads, they build everything that makes those countries more up to date, more modernized. Those create jobs. So if you take someone who lives in a village, you bring them into the city, they work at a plant. Like I was watching in Ethiopia, they have a entire an entire compound where it's like enclosed community. They showed the diagram of the whole facility. It's, you know, they acquired, you know, I don't know, it's huge. It's the size of a city. They put apartment buildings on there, they put warehouses, they put a mall on there. They built basically a city and invited all the Ethiopian people into it to train them, and then they send them back to China for training. It's like a 2-year program, and so they employ, I want to say it was like 200,000 people employed in shoe warehouses, putting together the shoes that we buy. Like I'm looking at some of the name brands of the shoes. It's stuff we have in malls over here. They put them together. They showing how they make them, how they train them and stuff. But those people went from making $1 a day to making, you know, $3, $4, $5 an hour. I don't know what it was, but that's a hell of an upgrade, and that's not slave labor. That's just the fact that that's providing opportunity. So I say all that to basically say that once China and this One Belt, One Road initiative is up and running, they're going to have a new monetary system in play, a new currency that travels along that, and it won't be Federal Reserve notes. Everybody who does business with that interconnecting road from Europe all the way to China and on down to Africa, they're going to be dealing with a very select currency, and it won't be Federal Reserve notes, just to put it like that. I'm sure you can agree with me on that. And so at the end of the day, everyone always wondered, why did China build ghost cities? Those cities where, you know, they built entire cities of skyscrapers, malls, and railroads, and buildings and stadiums. Everything that makes up what we call a metropolitan city. They have a lot of those just sitting around empty. Those were built using, I believe it was probably built using some of the treasuries and whatnot, using some of the surplus that they got from us, because we send paper, they send goods. Take some of that paper, build up infrastructure, and so that 10, 15, 20 years from now, once they are done investing in Africa, they're done investing along a Silk Road, and all those second world, third world nations have been upgraded in their standard of living, then it's going to be easier for the Chinese people to come into the cities, acquire, you know, credit to be able to afford things. The same way we do here, it's going to be reversed. It's going to be the same reverse there. The Chinese will have a chance to use credit for their benefit the way we do here, how we can finance everything from your phone to a pair of shoes if you need it. And so that's basically, China will be able to reap the benefits of their investments now by investing in Africa, because Africa will be a developed nations, that they will have people who send products to China, and we'll be here. We're going to have stuff that says made in the USA again, but we're going to be sending it to China, but yet we're going to be a grade or two lower than our current living standard, because once you remove the ease of credit, that will let you know where you would stand if you couldn't finance anything. So if you couldn't finance what you currently have now, then what would you have? And so that's something to consider. So once again, I got the rant again. I'm sorry. It says NAFTA was made, make the U.S. a third world country if worked. Yeah, and we see how NAFTA, those agreements, those type of trade agreements have hollowed out the middle class in reference to those secure factory, you know, automotive jobs and stuff like that that's no longer present. Says JP Morgan is good because, says JPM is good because China owns them. Yeah, JP Morgan, you know, they're in the hook to the Chinese, definitely. Says they are only investing to be able to pull natural resources from there. And I do agree 100%, but that's they're investing in those countries to provide a better lifestyle for the people, to then be able to put them to work to withdraw some of that, you know, sweat equity, as well as some of the resources they're going to get. And so every loan that's given comes at a cost, of course. And it's good to say all the politicians in Africa are getting their pockets lined up very nice. They're going to scrape a lot of that wealth off the top. And so, unfortunately, like always, the bottom people, the people who are, of lesser means may not see some of the rewards, but the politicians will. That's how it tends to work. It says, I agree. Hillary started on board of Walmart. Walmart now partnered with FEMA. Really? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's sad. That's bad. It says, Russia will be the new Israel. Africa will be the new China. China will be the new America. Tony. Well said. It says, buy American goods as hard as it is our way back making something. Yeah, and that's the thing, Vance, like, to buy American goods will be great, but just the idea is not many American goods as far as, what we use in our daily lives now that's made here. And if it is made here, it's going to come at a premium because the cost of making it here is going to be a lot higher than it would be to buy that same gadget or whatever over in outside this country. So, and at the end of the day, like if you have a same gadget, one made in China for $50, or say for example, like the cell phone industry, so there's a lot of cell phones that's competing now. And so as you notice, as more competitors come out, cell phone prices are dropping. But yet we still got Apple, which is based here in America. They're charging $1,000 for a phone. So you say $1,000 for Apple, or you get some no name from China that has the same quality of specs for $200-300. Depending on your loyalty. Me personally, I don't need $1,000 phone, so I'm gonna go with a $200 or $300 phone, and that's the same type of example of what I mean by being made in America. So that's just me. Michael, welcome, my friend. Michael made it. Michael, where you watching us from, my friend? And as always, let me know if you got people joining in for the first time. Let me know where you're viewing us from. And more importantly, as always, it's RTD, a voice for the people. So 833 Live RTD is the number to call in and let me know what's happening in your world. It says Japan's GDP is 200%. China is buying their economy. Russia said they are prepared to buy theirs. The USA, 100% GDP starts buying theirs. What will we look like? UBI. It says starts buying theirs. What would we look like? I'm not sure, Tony. Break that down. Break that up into chunks for me. Michael from New York, Buffalo, welcome. Appreciate you for chiming in. What's happening in Buffalo? First timer from Corpus Christi, welcome from Corpus Christi. So tonight's subject, as you can see from the title, it's about how 9/11 has impacted you. And so I share it with those how basically 9/11 17 years ago led me to today, where I began questioning everything that was told to me, and it forced me to go try to find out a little bit something on my own. So I've learned, and I've learned this in my adult years, is that, we're told that there's two sides to a story. I've learned that that's not true. There's actually three sides to a story. And those three sides is what you're told, what you research for yourself, and then how you put all that together and formulate your own thoughts from that. And so I believe there's three sides to every story. So Rethinking the Dollar is, me trying to share with you my side of the story based upon the information I get from the mainstream media, a little bit of homework I do on the back end, and uncovered other stories, and then I put it together, and here we are right now talking. It says universal basic income. It says we will work for $1 a day soon. Man. Work for $1 a day. Here's the thing. I just thought about this recently. Like I always mention, for those who may be new, may not know, if you understand monetary history, I like to be very precise when I talk to people, because I stopped using the word money. I usually catch myself and I use the word currency. And if I'm really on point, I'll say fiat currency. And people are like, what do you mean? I'm like, there's a difference between money and fiat currency. And then that leads to a conversation. But yet, the word dollar or thaler, if you look at the historical side of things, ultimately means a measurement of weight. But yet we've gotten far from that, so it's no longer that definition. Most people would understand that. So we look at it as just a piece of paper. But I don't think the word dollar, I think after this next crisis, the policies that follow, the end result of everything that happens to save off the markets from imploding, the banks from imploding, I don't think people are going to even want to hear the word dollar because the word dollar probably will somewhat bring up Bolivar. It'll probably sound like Bolivar. And I'm sure for a Venezuelan, you hear the word Bolivar, you ain't too happy to hear the word Bolivar. So that's why Maduro changed it to the Petro. And that's why he named it the Sovereign Bolivar. So we're going to have the strong dollar. That's the first time I thought of that one. We're going to have something called a strong dollar. Or they're going to give it a nickname like, something to reestablish confidence behind it. So they're going to call it the dollar strong or the strong treasury note, the dollar treasury, whatever they're going to, they got to rename it. They always rename it to rebrand it, to then run a marketing campaign to the public and make these promises behind it. So the word dollar, D-O-L-L-A-R, in my opinion, 5-10 years from now, at the end of everything when it unfolds, won't be a word that people won't be a word people feel comfortable using. So the new issuance or whatever won't be called dollar. That's my opinion. Let me know if you might disagree with me. Feel free to let me know. It says a crazy 9/11 happened because Saddam Hussein was going to change from the dollar to euro in order to purchase his oil. Philman. Now, here's another part of that story there. And so based upon our government used 9/11 as a rallying cry to then bring up weapons of mass destruction in Saudi Arabia, in Iraq. And so if what's his name? If Osama bin Laden was the leader of Al Qaeda, and he sent 19 goons through training, they trained in mountains and all that stuff like that. Supposedly, this is all like, if you watch a lot of videos where people show a lot of information, it leads you to believe that's that narrative. But we have Osama bin Laden in a cave somewhere plotting against the U.S. Then all of a sudden, Saddam Hussein is cool with homeboy. What's his name? I'm drawing a blank. And so now they have weapons of mass destruction. So we gotta go to Iraq now. So the whole point is, how does Iraq and Al Qaeda even come in the same conversation, other than the fact that we were already beating the war drums to get even with whoever brought down the towers, and it was easier to sell. It was easier to sell the idea of going into Iraq because of weapons of mass destruction, and then everything that happened from there. But I'm not even sure Saddam Hussein was really like, him and Osama bin Laden were cool like that. Of course they, I don't know. I'm gonna stop right there. But I just don't think they were cool like that to where we had to go bomb them, and then it took us 3 or 4, 5, 6. It took us 2 presidents to go get Osama bin Laden, and all we heard about Osama bin Laden, it was a late night attack from SEAL Team 7 or 6, and then they dumped his body in the ocean. And then from what I've read and heard video-wise, the entire team that went to go get Osama bin Laden, I don't think they're still alive. So I'm gonna stop right there. I'm gonna let it go. Oh, and we're in Afghanistan. and we still in Afghanistan, guarding the opium fields. So yeah, that's what's real. That is what's real. But those are all subjects that came from that one event on this day 17 years ago. And then the question will be ask the powers that be or the politicians in play, how has that panned out for us as a country with all that? It hasn't done us any good. And someone mentioned $21 trillion in debt, 21 trillion missing. It looks like people gonna continue to harp on that 21 trillion missing as if like it's gonna reappear or pop back up. And at the end of the day, I believe it could be more than 21 trillion. We just haven't they just haven't got to those books just yet. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Tim again from Colorado.
Tim, how you doing, my friend? What's on your mind this evening?
First I want to say you're doing a fantastic job on your podcast and your guests.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. Thanks for that.
Yeah. And secondly, how's it feel to live in a world run by psychopaths?
It's you adjust. You have to adjust. So it is what it is for now.
Yeah. Yeah, I know how you survive. I'm having a hard time. So think about it. In the last 12 months, just take the last year, what has our government told us that you believe to be true?
All right, say that one more time. What? It said in the last 6 months, you say?
In the last year.
In last year.
Is there anything you can think of that our government, the United States powers that be, have told the citizenry that you believe to be true?
Whoo, man. Now, to be honest with you, when you posed that question to me, I thought about every single thing that I was told that I can argue or dispute. So nothing comes to mind that I'm like, yep, I believe Trump was right on that. I believe because we're told that unemployment is at an all-time low, the economy has never been stronger, job number. I mean, all these. I'm thinking like, hold on, I mean, Mr. President, just 2 years ago you were saying that we were in a bubble, stock market's in a bubble. You were saying that the job market, you were saying all that good stuff on the campaign trail, but now everything is good and you taking credit for it. I'm like, yeah, I'm not really sure how that plays out. So I guess he has to play along with the narrative. But during the campaign trail, he's saying Obama had the worst economy and this and that and the jobs. And so, yeah, but I'll leave that alone. So I can't think of nothing offhand, if that answers your question. How about you? What you have something in mind?
I consider myself I hope for the best and plan for the worst, and I think I'm a realist, but I guess a lot of people would call me a pessimist.
Yeah.
But I think the two biggest issues we got going, we're gonna have a war. I mean, we're gonna have when all else fails, they take you to war. I think we've lost Trump. Maybe he's been part of the game all the time. I don't know. We're gonna have a war. It's gonna start in Syria, and we're pissing everybody off in the world, basically. I was part of offshoring manufacturing to China. I went there and took my job there. And the economy is going to go down. It's mathematically a given. So between the two things right there, we're looking at some serious stuff going to be happening. I think it's going to be happening before the end of the year.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I've around this time frame, I've felt that sense of I felt that sense of like desperation, urgency, or whatever, but before, and so I wouldn't want to bet on anything happening by the end of this year, but it just feels like it. I'm not sure if it's heading to fall, the weather changes or what, but it always feels like there's anything around the corner that could surprise us and be like, whoa, that starts the dominoes that falls. But I'm going to be optimistic and say, it won't be. We won't experience anything that will be completely life changing this year. I'll say that. Now we're gonna experience some change because of the politician situation coming up. The hurricane is off the coast, and we're gonna experience some change, but nothing life changing just yet this year. I hope it's not time for that, because that gives us more time to reach more people, educate, and make preparations, whatever that might be. So, you agree with me, man? You gonna stand with me on that one?
Yeah. No, I totally agree, and nobody can call the time, but a lot of people are having this weird feeling, just like you are, and I hope the longer it goes, we can prepare better. But to be honest with you, I think we're better off just having the economy fail, because this Ponzi scheme, they're basically printing money from nothing and buying everything in the world. That's what's happening.
Yeah, and I believe, and I've also heard commentators mention this as well, but yet the Federal Reserve, or our central bank, is the leading central bank on the planet, and they're not done yet, because they still have to outright buy equities. They got to outright buy government debt flat out, and they also got to they also have to outright start that UBI scheme, as far as them printing and delivering directly to our bank accounts. So those are three things that I'm expecting. So they're not done yet.
And they're going to go past ZERP, and we're going to have to go negative interest rates and get rid of currency.
Yep.
Physical currency. But I agree. They're not done, but I think there's going to be a black swan event. I'm afraid. Yeah. But hey, it's all, who knows? Who knows?
Right.
Now let's go back to it. Keep up the great work, man.
Thanks, my friend. Appreciate you calling in. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, man. There's so many things that could possibly unfold. And so it says, Osama bin Laden saw Saddam as an infidel. He wanted to handle Saddam himself and U.S. not to intervene. Yeah, so that leads to, why was it so important for us to go into Iraq, to even deal with that matter there. Now, to my knowledge, from what I've seen and heard, Iraq is a complete mess still. Like, they may not have been stabilized yet, or that might be that might be the information we're told. Perhaps Iraq could be in better state now and whatever. So I don't know what's happening over there. I haven't gone to Iraq. It says they have already bought everything, can't beat the Fed at their own game. That's very true. So, it's not, I don't think, any type of, we're not coming to the end of this monetary paradigm just yet, because, our Eastern allies aren't fully prepared yet, because the One Belt, One Road initiative is not fully laid out yet. All that African investment is not done yet. And so they're going to play along, and they're going to do their best to deal with Trump, if not utilize this in some way with this whole trade situation, because we need each other, because everything in our country comes from their country. Everything in our country comes from China. And so China still needs, us to send them funny money so they can then use that funny money to invest in their economy and the One Belt, One Road. So I think at the end of the day, Xi Jinping and Putin, they already know the end result. They already know what they're going to do. And Xi Jinping is just playing us. That's what I really think. And so Trump has the stance of, he's being the bad guy. He's putting his foot down. But I think this could be part of the Chinese plan, given the fact that, from what I've gathered, they think 5, 10, 15, 20 years ahead. And how do you know that? Because they had, early this year, they actually have like a 5-year, 10-year plan, where it's like their government come together and they actually have a plan. We don't have a plan in this country. We can't even have, our politicians don't even agree on nothing. They got a 5-year, 10-year, I forgot what it's called, but yet if you look up the Chinese long-term thinking with a plan, you're going to see some information there that they already have a map as to what they're doing. So they know step 10 is to cut the switch on, which kills the dollar and puts the yuan and whatever else they want to attach to it in circulation. So that's what's really happening, in my opinion. But as always, we're approaching that hour point, and it has been good to go back and forth a little bit. And so apart from any last thoughts, the whole subject matter was 9/11, how it's impacted your life. Didn't get much feedback from that. And so I'm open to another call or some chat here on how the 9/11 has impacted you, either positive, negative, whatever. If you feel comfortable sharing with it, I'm curious to find out. Because as I mentioned, at the end of the day, looking back over these 17 years, it's led me to this talk show and to having a chance to connect with you viewers and whatnot. So it's definitely been a blessing in that regards there. Too young for 9/11. It says, actually, we do. There's a 2050 map and high-speed rail and tech. Yeah, Nicodemus, but that, I'm not sure that 2050, I'm not sure what's the source of that is. It says the day before 9/11, Donald Rumsfeld gave a press conference stating that $2.1 trillion was missing from the Pentagon, contained information that when he went and happened to the Pentagon. Yeah. So that's $2.1 trillion that was missing 17 years ago, and so that's just what we are told. Imagine all the things we're not told. It's good to say, because the central banks can bring into existence any amount of currency they want. So why would we think it's just limited to that 2.1 trillion, and then the 21 trillion is missing now? Because the only reason we know about that is because the agencies that those funds went to, they can't account for them. That's why. But if they could account for them, there wouldn't have never been no research to find out there was anything missing. So it lets me know that if there's, I don't know how many agencies we have in this country, but if there's 100 government agencies, we're talking about 2 or 3 or 4 that's coming up with that 21 trillion missing. There could be 4, 5, 6 more agencies this missing trillion. So, and the thing is, I don't think those trillions are going to surface, because I'm not sure how they have been spent or what they have acquired. I would imagine that they actually probably either purchased some tangible goods, i.e. acquired a lot of land somewhere somehow, or a lot of people think they put into the space program. There's a lot of activity down in Antarctica, and there's a lot of woo-woo astronomical type stuff out here that people say that's where the funds went. So I haven't dived into that yet. So who knows? It says, who benefited from 9/11? Larry Silverman, $4.5 billion. Yeah. So Tony, Larry Silverman, the guy who owned the Twin Towers. Nope, that's a doctor. Nope, I'm looking at the wrong Larry Silverman. people who benefited the most is the person who took out an insurance policy or renewed his insurance policy. I think it was the World Trades or Building 7. The owner of the towers or the Building 7 took out an insurance policy like a month before, 2 months before, or something like that. That leads me to like, how would he know unless he knew something to be cognizant of the fact of needing insurance before the biggest event that hits our country happens. So yeah, but anyway, I'm gonna leave it right there. Everybody, it's been good chit-chatting this evening. If you have not, check in with me over here via these sources here. Let's connect again. Also, the Telegram group, got a couple people joined in there. A couple people reached out to me during the day, and so it's good to go back and forth. So definitely connect with us on Telegram. I share articles and pictures and stuff throughout the day. But other than that, just trying to create more ways to get in contact and get connected with you, just in case one day if I do a great job, which I hope I do, then I probably won't be able to use this video channel anymore, because they'll probably shut it down, because I've reached so many people and woke up so many people around this country. So that's the goal at the end of the day. But anyway, everybody have a good evening. Enjoy yourself, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night, RTD Live Talk 9:30. Tell a friend and have them join us. Looking forward to meeting some more people and having you guys call in and share your thoughts. So if you have any ideas on topics for tomorrow's night, I'm trying to boil down to specific topics to gear towards, and then if we spin off of it, that's fine. But I want to try have a main theme for the evening. So if anyone has any worthy and detailed thoughts that you want to talk about, leave a comment down below this video here, and then I'll skim through it throughout the day. And if it's something worthwhile, we'll pick the conversation topic and roll with it. So other than that, give me a thumbs up, share this video so more people can find out what's going on, and just have the subject matter put out there, because there's some nuggets dropped in the chat, as well as just some of the things that was not told as part of the main narrative for the 9/11 event. So other than that, have a good night, be safe, and I'll see you later.